announced your second report into carbon forest credits, and what's your legal view of the situation at the moment?
Thanks, Ed. It was actually EcoSecurities was the driver of the report, and as Norton Rose, as a legal provider, we essentially just supported the analysis of the report. Legal view of forestry projects at the moment is, in my view, a growing interest in real investment in real projects which deliver real co-benefits and emission reductions. What that is, from a legal perspective, what that has actually meant is that we are now actually testing things on the ground. So we are actually going in to do due diligence. We are looking at, pick a country, you're going into Africa. They don't have a distinct legal regime for RED or RED+, but they may have an environmental legal regime. They have a land tenure regime, and they may have a forestry regime. So from a legal perspective, what early stage projects and pilot initiatives are doing is really finding the challenges of taking analogous legal regimes and applying it to new goals, which may be expressed as, say, a new type of easement over a forest, etc.
I saw in the report in 2007, 2008, there was huge growth in carbon investment, and Norton Rose are positioning themselves more and more as a company that deal a lot in the environmental side of things. Are you seeing more and more people coming to you asking about this kind of stuff?
I would say yes. As a lawyer working in this space, I do get a significant number of inquiries. I would also highlight that in my experience, why I do this and the people I work with is because I'm actually quite passionate about this area. And some of my key clients who are doing projects, who work for investment banks or other institutions, it's not that those investment banks are necessarily made a decision to throw money at forestry. It's actually, again, people with a particular passion about forests and about the solutions that markets can bring to those problems that are almost driving their organisations forward. Or to put it another way, I spend a lot of time reading on this stuff on my weekends as my day job.
During the launch of the report, you also talked a lot about Copenhagen, and obviously one of the disappointments of that was there was no legally binding deal on anything, and RED, articles like that, got pushed to the side. And where do you see the future going for that?
It's a good question. It depends on whether you're an optimist or a pessimist. I do think it's becoming clearer that we will be moving into a relatively fragmented world, which doesn't mean that we're necessarily not going to be achieving results in terms of preventing dangerous climate change, but we're moving away from potentially a system which is very rigorous in tracking and monitoring and demonstrating what has been achieved. So we may end up in a world where we've got multiple initiatives by multiple countries with multiple ways of measuring success. And that'll probably feed into forestry and particularly RED+, where we have a lot of momentum. We have a lot of fast up funding that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of work done. Maybe over time it will lead to something that is more robust and more like a compliant system, a carbon market. But I think in the near term we will have sort of a multiplicity of initiatives.
The report talks a lot, people are very positive about the carbon markets, forest, but how do you turn that into investment?
That was a very good question. As a chairperson for the Carbon Market Investors Association on forestry issues, I would say that there is probably 3 easy ways in which policymakers can actually drive appropriate early stage investment in forestry, and that's give appropriate signals that there will be a role for markets, not necessarily straight away, but it may be a further phase down the track. That there would be recognition of early action by host countries. So for instance, if Indonesia or Kenya or DRC had hosted projects which hadn't made reduction achievements, and there was a future scheme, that those reductions would have a value and a reward, which gives you that drive to make early stage investment. And finally, that there is always going to be, hopefully, a role for subnational projects, so that we end up with a system where it's not just a government-to-government deal, but we still find means to drive appropriate investments at a local level.
Thank you very much.
That's good.